again, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Sportsbook Confidential. My name is John Sullivan, and I'm coming to you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls. And this little show here is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. And once again, I am joined by professional podcast producer Paul Russo. How you doing, Paul?
Good, John. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, and we've got a interesting show today. We're going to talk about Wagertainment and how that is spreading across the media scene, and then we're going to talk about some football this weekend and give out some picks. I hope you have something lined up for us.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So before we get into all that fun stuff, we're going to do what we always do and update my bankroll. And last week we had a starting bankroll of $235, and we had the Colts minus 10. Which was a loser. The Jaguars had a backdoor cover, a touchdown, and a 2-point conversion. Colts won by 6, but that was a loser for us, minus $8 to the bankroll. And we're going to add plus 1 to the count because the closing line was 10.5. And then I had Seattle and Green Bay under 49. The model loved that. The model said 42. That was not a sweat at all. It was a winner with 17-0. And plus $7 to the bankroll, and our count we get a plus 1 because the closing line was 48.5. And then last week we talked about adjusted net rating, and our game that we used in the example was Cleveland Cavaliers minus 5.5, and they happened to win by 20, so that was very fortunate for us, and that was a win. $8 to the bankroll. So if you do the math, it's a profit of $7. Raises the bankroll to $242, and dividing by 30, as I always do, to adjust the bet size. That's going to make our bet size $8 again going forward. And then my count that I keep for the football season is now up to plus 14. Once again, for those of you that don't tune in regularly, the count, we get a plus 1 if we beat the closing line, a 0 if we tie it, and a minus 1 if we do not beat the closing line. And so if you're getting a positive number overall, that means you're finding value in your wagers, and that's a good sign. So let's talk very quickly before I cut back to Paul about what is Wagertainment. And Wagertainment, I can't take any credit for coining this phrase. I've heard it used in the sports betting media landscape, and I don't know who originated it. So I have to give credit when credit is due at some point. But Wagertainment is a term used to describe the sports betting media that is partially or wholly sponsored by sportsbooks. And what that means is there's a lot of sports betting programming that is currently available to you to stream, to watch on YouTube, to watch on cable television, to watch on your phone, and sometimes very subtly and other times not so subtly, you will see that this content is sponsored by a gaming company or a sports book, and that is an important thing to note because these shows are designed to capture the excitement and the opportunity of sports betting, and that is what the sports books want. They want you to be excited about a future sports betting opportunity. I'm not saying some of these programs, they may want you to be informed, other ones not so much, but they both have the same goal, is to get the consumer excited about an upcoming sports betting opportunity. And then most of these programs are targeted to a young adult demographic, the most coveted by the sports books, because they want to catch them young and get them into the fold and have a customer for as many years as possible. And they know that the inexperienced bettors are going to lose and probably stick with it longer before if they cannot find a way to win, they will give up. And then of course there are people who just bet for entertainment, which is fine. I have nothing against that, but here on my program, we try to bet with a profit motive and try to learn ways to beat the sports betting puzzle. So let's have a little discussion. I'm going to cut over to Paul, and Paul, why don't you tell me a little bit about maybe some of the programs you might have seen? Have you seen any programs that talk about the type of programming I talk about?
Yeah, I think the main one that comes to mind for me, the one that, maybe I'm not like a regular viewer of per se, but certainly the one that jumps out, and if I stumble upon it, I'm going to watch or at least leave on the TV is Daily Wager.
Yeah, and ESPN.
On ESPN. Yeah. And then the other one that comes to mind is, and the name of it always slips my mind, but it's on FS1 with Clay Travis. And
I think that's called Lock It In.
Yeah,
Lock
yeah.
It In.
You bring up, good points, and, one of the things that always kind of sits in the back of my mind, right, about, those programs is, what kind of the degree, like, what's their angle more or less on it because of who is backing them, whether it's DraftKings or BetMGM or somebody like that, right? But, to kind of like maybe, I wouldn't say level it out, certainly there is good stuff on there, whether, they, I don't know if it's the analysis of it, but it certainly, is captivating. You bring up, a good point in that they're trying to get the younger demographic, whether it's, you want to look at it as the 21 to 39 or whatever, that sort of line is, they certainly done well with me. And, to kind of piggyback off of it, look at my dad, who definitely is not in that demographic. He's hooked on that program as well. Yeah. I'll come home, whether it's lunch or whatever, and maybe it's not even Daily Wager. I know on ESPN News now, their main ticker or score bug, whatever you want to call it, is just all lines and the spreads all the time now. Yeah. And it's for pretty much every sport, whether it's, MLB, NBA to MMA and boxing. So certainly, it's whether or not you want to kind of look away from it, it's kind of always hovering there now to a degree.
So I'm going to point out a couple of examples in my recent viewing experience. As a huge hockey fan, I watch a lot of MSG up here in New York, and we get the Devils, the Rangers, the Islanders, and the Sabres. And usually in the run-up to a 7 o'clock hockey game, there's 3 half-hour back-to-back programs that are sports betting related. And I'm not knocking them. They're trying to make sports betting seem hip and fashionable and exciting, and I think that's fine. I think it's hip and I think it's exciting, but. They say things like they do cover their yesterday's picks, and they're like, I was 3-2 yesterday. If you're betting 5 wagers a day, on a limited number of games, it's a recipe for disaster. And I'm not trying to criticize. I'm just trying to say that they don't really focus on the long-term,
right.
Effect that. Being excited about tonight's games is going to have over a period. Right. Sometimes I pick 5 games here, but it's over a weekend. It's over a week, 3 or 4 days, and so it's not necessarily 5 games a night. But it is certainly you can tell right away if Wagertainment exists because they will mention several times on Daily Wager. They'll say the odds are provided to us by our good friends at Caesars, William Hill's Sportsbook or whatever, or they'll just outright say today's program is brought to you by DraftKings. And DraftKings actually has its own media company now.
Yep.
They've actually bought the VSIN network.
Okay. About to say, I know they're big into the Meadowlark with Dan Le Batard and John Skipper now.
Yeah. Yes, the Meadowlark, and they also have their own NFT company, which that's a whole separate conversation for another day, but. That's not to say that there isn't good sports betting content out there. It's a little harder to find. There's a lot of great podcasts, and I've done an episode on podcasts. There's a lot of great content out there that you have to dig for a little bit and try. There is, I know there is one particular. I think it might be the Business of Betting, or maybe it's a similar one to that, but it's sponsored by Matchbook or Pinnacle, which are European bookmaking operations, or offshore, I should say, and they're very, very intelligent programs. So just the proliferation of, it's kind of like I actually find I still enjoy watching these programs sometimes, and I kind of enjoy it from a reverse information angle. It's kind of like when you watch Monday Night Football and they say, who you got tonight? And everybody on the panel picks the same team, and that team ends up losing. And it was like what was it, Rams 49ers the other last week, but when they talk, like on Daily Wager, when they talk about the World Series futures or the Super Bowl futures, and say, who do these people think? And I'm looking at it saying, okay, what are the teams the public is not looking at? The ones they're not talking about. I kind of pocket that information because that's where the value is. Right. And that's, that's where the future market, it's worth putting a few bucks down on, the San Francisco Giants to win the World Series. Like, nobody had them in April. Right. So, because everybody thought it was going to be Dodgers and Padres. So there's always value in all this content. I mean, we can't watch it all. But you have to figure out what level of media works for you as a bettor. I try to keep my content here for the beginning to intermediate bettor, and I would say that I kind of fall in the category of intermediate, the high end of intermediate bettor. I'm not a pro, and this is not my sole source of income, so there's a lot still for me to learn. But I do enjoy seeing all these new programs come out and seeing what direction they're going in. And hopefully we will have someday the mix of the good education and good entertainment. And then we'll have what I would consider to be true wagertainment. Anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, you definitely bring up, in my mind, some really good points because, for me personally speaking, I'm a big NASCAR fan. It's something that we've, discussed, outside of this podcast. And it's actually kind of where I first picked up on maybe some wagertainment of sort is kind of like when they come in with, they kind of disguised it, as I call it now, under the fantasy aspect of it. But as you brought up, at the tail end of it, there's always like, and the odds that we provide you are brought to you by DraftKings.
Yes.
I think that's actually the Fox aspect of NASCAR's coverage. They have a show called Race Hub, and they always give, who's your great value pick of like the week or something like that, right? And then right at the end, it's like, brought to you by DraftKings. And so I think for me, that's actually kind of where I first fully picked up on it. And you're right. I think, eventually here it'd be really great once if we ever get to that point, as I'll call it, where we can perfectly mix the entertainment with education aspect of it. Because I think at that point, maybe that's how you actually draw in at that point, new whether it's new bettors or just new eyes to a sport in general. I think that's where it will really apex and probably find a really good footing to become, it's already betting, it's kind of already become mainstream. I mean, just look at the way everything's kind of been the past few years, how it's opened up, whether it's new states, new areas to do it, like, mobile betting or something like that. So, I think the future, as you brought up, I think it's pretty exciting, hopefully, here coming up once we finally hit that apex.
Yeah. So also, I would say that Fox has its own betting division. Yeah. Fox Bet, which I'm not sure if they're going to be available in New York State or not. Yeah. But from the fantasy side of things, obviously DraftKings is the number one player. And DraftKings did sign an agreement with NASCAR, so they might be the official, thing of the fantasy game of NASCAR. So
Everything I forget about.
yeah, but it's very interesting times.
Yeah.
We're going to have mobile betting here in New York within less than 3 months. Less than 3 months for sure. And we're going to do some programs to help new interested bettors get up to speed on how to use their phones or their tablets or whatever to place a wager. So in the coming weeks, we'll have that kind of stuff for you. So I hope you stick around for that. So that's our topic for the day. I hope you found that interesting. Let's move on to some football, and we're going to take a few minutes to talk about college football. And I have a few games I picked out here. Do you want to talk about any particular game right off the top?
Yeah, I think I think we should start right off the bat. I think I know on your panel you had the Wake Clemson game right up the top, and that's the first game that I had written down for myself as well.
Okay.
It's been an interesting year. If you want to look at it on the field, obviously for both teams, I think Wake is a little bit better than everybody thought, and Clemson certainly down compared to where everybody thought they would be. So tale of two seasons with those teams. I've had, I don't know if I'd call it the pleasure of seeing both those teams play in person up at Syracuse, but two different forms of offense, and I guess in that realm. And personally speaking, I like Wake in the game. I know it's arguably probably going to be their toughest road test still, nonetheless, of the year. Clemson is. I don't know if it's maybe the toughest play to play in the ACC, but the way they get rowdy down there for game day is always tough.
Yeah, so let's take a look at the numbers here. Let me put them up on the screen for everybody. So Wake Forest on the road at Clemson. Clemson has, even in a down year, has a very good defense, but they struggle to score offense. And on the flip side, you have Wake Forest with what seems to be a high-powered offense and a porous defense. Mm-hmm. And here's the deal. Wake Forest really needs this win to make it to the ACC title game.
Yeah.
If they lose this game, this could backdoor the Tar Heels into the division. Mm-hmm. So, big game for Wake. I think it's important for them. 4 points to me is a lot, and I think the under here, because Clemson is, they just have not allowed a lot of points to a lot of teams. Excuse me. I like both of those sides, but that might not be my play for the week. But let's move on here. I've got Michigan State at Ohio State, minus 19 for Ohio State at home, 68.5. I feel like this game, obviously, this is basically a play-in game for the playoffs, for the Big Ten title game. Must-have for both teams. Mm-hmm. 68.5, I think, is way too high.
Yeah.
Michigan State gave up points early to Purdue last week, and they were chasing, and it got away from their whole game plan. Both of these teams would prefer. Stroud has been an excellent passer in the last month, but I think that Michigan State really wants to slow this game down as much as possible. So I really think the under is. If this got to 21, I think I would have to put money on Michigan State at 21 or 21.5. I don't know. These lines move a lot, and they'll move a lot in the next 24 hours. Yeah. But I think the under is definitely the play there. And then I have Iowa State at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's -4 at home, 60.5. And this is another game that I think the under is in play. Iowa State has a very good defense. They shut Iowa down. Oklahoma has had a lot of close games and some low-scoring games. And this is not the type of team that is going to allow Oklahoma to put up 40 points. Mm. So I could see this being, 30-17, whichever way it goes.
Right.
And that's only 47 points. So If you have any opinions on any of this stuff, just jump
Yeah,
in.
yeah. I think just to kind of go back quickly to Michigan State, Ohio State. I know for me personally speaking, I'm not really big on that game either way it sounds. I think to me you hit the nail on the head with the way Michigan State's going to want to control this game. They're going to want to slow it down, go to Kenny Walker, who, really to be fair, probably should be one of the more higher up Heisman candidates in that realm.
I agree.
Temptedly speaking, I do like them even getting the 19 in the first place, but I'm with you. I think that under's by far the better play more than anything else. Likewise, as good as Stroud has been through the air, Ohio State's not afraid to run the ball either.
No.
I think that's the thing. I think, it's. I don't think there's supposed to be any precipitation too much in that game, but it's going to be a colder game, by far the coldest on the year probably so far, and that certainly will lend to the running game. I mean, like I said, Ohio State equally has a good running game. Maybe it doesn't jump out just specifically because of Michigan State has Walker, who is, I think, second in the nation in rushing, something like that, or first. I think it's between him and Tucker still for Syracuse. And then, the Iowa State-Oklahoma game is really interesting. Iowa State bring up how good their defense is. Oklahoma this week, Lincoln Riley all of a sudden pops up in, the whole entire coaching carousel thing. I don't lean into that too much locker room stuff for the most part, but it adds an interesting wrinkle given obviously last week and a couple weeks here prior where they've struggled. You do have the loss pop up for them. Again, another quarterback change, bringing Rattler back into the fold. I'm with you. I think the under again in that game is the better play rather than whether it's playing the spread or maybe a money line option for either team.
Sounds good. All right, I'm glad we're on the same page. All right, so let's run through the rest of these college games so we can keep our time on pace here. Arkansas at Alabama, minus 20.5, 58.5. My feeling on this game is that if Alabama does blow them out, they're still going to want to run up the score.
Yeah.
Nick Saban is going to make his case to the committee by saying, even if we lose to Georgia, we blew everybody else out except for that one game we lost by 3. And if Arkansas is competitive, this game will still go over.
Yeah.
So I feel like the over is the play there. Baylor at Kansas State. Baylor getting a point on the road at Kansas State, which is a young team. Kansas State not an easy place to play, but Baylor actually has a backdoor chance to the Big 12 title if they can win out. And this is a game that they're not going to look past. I feel like 50 is the total. I think that's about right. This is one of those games that might be like 28-21, maybe higher depending on how well Kansas State does.
Yep.
But I do like Baylor on the road. I'm not really sold on it. And then we have Oregon and Utah with this is for first place in the Pac-12. And Oregon is a 3-point dog on the road, total of 59. And I did look over the injury report, and Oregon does have a lot of banged up receivers and running backs. Not really their strength, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, they beat Ohio State with their defense. And I feel like this game just screams Oregon to me, either plus the points or on the money line even. I mean, you're just getting obviously people are not high on the Pac-12, but you're getting the third-ranked team in the country at plus 140 on the money line. You can find the NFL, they've proven at that level anyway, you can find a warm body to run the ball.
Right.
And your quarterback is still intact. It's not like he's not there to throw the ball or to run it himself. 59 is the total. That might be an under. I don't know. I don't really have an opinion on the total for that game.
Yeah, that over-under is certainly a toss-up total-wise, in my opinion, anyway.
What do you think about the game?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting factors going on in Oregon outside of, obviously, the injury report. Another coach in the coaching name carousel with Cristobal. He also has the very unique distinction of being like I think he's now 2 games above 500 on the road as a Pac-12 head coach. That being said, Utah's been a very interesting Pac-12 team this year. I'm with you. I think that like I said, the totals are very. I don't know if it's like right on, spot on, but that thing I think's
close.
It will go under in my opinion. But I'm with you though. I really do think Oregon, you bring up like the Alabama situation, right? How Saban's probably going to just go toward scorched earth, as I call it.
Yeah, he is. He has to.
Oregon's in a very similar position.
Yeah.
Where if they can take advantage, Utah's, I think, the 20th? They're ranked 20th, I think, right now or something like that.
They're between 20 and 25.
And look, that's going to be a ranked game, and the way the committee's acting this year, and if you're Oregon, if you're Mario Cristobal, this is going to be a perfect situation. If you can get up and stay up, I think you hammer on. I really do love the money line in that game. If you want to play, I guess, in that situation, the conservative, go ahead and take the 3 points.
Yeah, I agree. So we've talked in the past about what is my mindset of what is the sports book giving me.
Yeah.
And I look at all the bets on the board, and I see that, and I get a really good team at a really good price. I understand they could lose that game.
Yeah.
And I understand it's expected to be a competitive game,
Yeah.
but the sports book is giving me a really good price, and that's hard for me to pass
Right.
up. I'm a value shopper.
Mm-hmm.
Last one in college, Oklahoma State at Texas Tech. I have Oklahoma State's favored by 10.5, 56.5. The reason I bring this up is Oklahoma State actually has a backdoor to the college football playoff if things go their way.
Chaos ball.
Chaos ball, yeah. It is the chaos theory. They obviously need to win and then beat Oklahoma, assuming Oklahoma is still only a one-loss team. And then as the best team out of the Big 12, they need teams like Ohio State, Michigan State, Notre Dame, and Cincinnati to lose at least one more.
Yep.
And there they are. But Texas Tech is in kind of, I would call, a rebuilding year for their program. Yeah. It would not be hard for Oklahoma State to slap 2 scores on them rather quickly. Mm-hmm. And Texas Tech has been traditionally a program that doesn't concentrate on defense.
Yeah.
And, so I feel like that spread at 10, I feel like is a very attractive wager. Mm-hmm. But so let's move on to the NFL, and then we'll wrap it up with some picks. Saints at the Eagles, minus 243, and my spreadsheet model has this game as a pick'em and 44.72. If it's a pick'em, you want to take the team that's getting the points or getting the better odds. So my model would say take the Saints there. I'll just run through these numbers, and then we can talk about these games. Dolphins at Jets. Jets getting 3.5 at home, 44.5. The elite Joe Flacco going to start for the Jets. And I have the Dolphins as 5.13 favorites, 43.81 on the total. Very similar. The football team at the Panthers and Cam Newton, minus 343. I have it at minus 2.18 and 40. So my model really likes the under there. And Washington has not scored points on the road. It doesn't matter who they've played. All their road games, they've been very low-scoring games. Colts at the Bills, minus 7 and 50, minus 8.47, 47.71. So the model likes the under, and the Colts like to run the ball, so that kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. But it does like the Bills. Lions at the Browns, and this is a game where my eyes and my numbers tell me 2 different things. Browns minus 12, 43.5 is the line. I have it at minus 11.7, 44.3. So it's pretty close. And I just don't feel like the Browns are 2 touchdowns better than the Lions. I know the Lions, are a defeated team after their, game of the century.
Yes.
But they're not that injured, and the Browns are going to probably be without Baker.
Yep.
So, if you're getting I know it was at 12.5, but if that gets to 13, 14 points, my heart is telling me to take the points in the Lions, but that could be a blowout as well.
Yeah.
49ers at Jaguars plus 6.5, 45.5. I have the 49ers as 7.35 favorites, 43.47. So it likes the under. I feel like this is going to be a letdown spot for the 49ers after their big win. This is one of those games where I definitely see the Jaguars doing another backdoor cover. And I'm not saying they're going to win outright against the 49ers, but 49ers have had some bad games. They've not been consistent.
And the Jaguars have been playing better.
They have been playing better. Urban's been behaving. Texans at Titans, minus 8.5, 44.5. I have it at minus 14.33, 45.62. So the model says Titans all day, baby, and it's hard to argue with that. Even though Tyrod is back for Houston, it's that season. Their guys are just playing out the string. There's not a lot of motivation.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a lot of motivation for Tennessee, but they're dragging out the ghost of Adrian Peterson every week. So I'm a big Adrian Peterson fan, but he's not. He's lost a step.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised he didn't go for Frank Gore. Are there any of those games that you would like to say something about?
Yeah, so obviously I think I'm going to start, you talk about where your heart goes and where the model goes. I'm with you. At least my heart tells me Detroit as well in that Browns matchup. I mean, just looking at how, in my opinion, well they have played kind of overall, let alone obviously game of the century last week in the most perfectly scripted tie of all time. But, that being said, it's going to be, I don't know if it's supposed to be like completely dodgy weather in Cleveland. I know it's supposed to be on the colder front. And obviously, I was at a game last year in Cleveland, oddly against Houston this time of year, where it was just absolute wind going. And I don't know if you remember the game, but it was the thunder snow game off the bat.
Yeah.
And that was less than ideal. And, in my opinion, the Browns do get Nick Chubb back. So it's going to be, in my opinion, a very low-scoring affair anyway. Drag it out. Yeah. I hate to go against the model, but I really do like Detroit getting the points.
Well,
in
the model actually leans slightly to the Lions.
Okay, so
the model says the Browns are favored by 11.7.
Okay.
But that's usually not enough of a difference to want to wager on it.
Yeah.
But I just feel like the model did I put in a player percentage based upon what type of percentage I believe that Baker's going to play.
Okay, yeah.
And so, for example, for the Arizona game, it's 50-50 whether Kyler Murray's going to play.
Yeah.
So the model does take that into account.
Yeah.
But the Lions play for Dan Campbell. Yeah. They really do. It's it's a sad but interesting story.
I want to play for Dan Campbell.
All right, let's move on to the rest of the games, and let's see what we got here. Okay, Packers at Vikings. Packers 1-point favorite on the road, 47's the total. I have it as the Packers as 2.6-point favorites, 48.87. That's pretty close. The Ravens at the Bears. This game really mystifies me. Bears are +4 at home, 44.5. I have the Ravens. The model has the Ravens as 7-point favorites and 43.48. So the total is really close. So unless Lamar Jackson is not playing, which I know he missed a practice, but come on, I don't understand why you just don't take the Ravens -4. I mean, you've got Lamar Jackson light and Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they don't have the passing part of the game figured out yet, but that seems like an obvious play.
Yeah.
Bengals at the Raiders. This is the who wants to be a playoff contender bowl. Raiders getting 1.5 at home, plus 1.5, 50.5. My model has this as a pick'em game. 0.28 is the difference. 51.93. So it likes the over. So the model would say, since it's a coin flip game, you would take the points with the Raiders, or you would take the Raiders on the money line. It just depends on how strongly you feel about that game. Cards at the Seahawks. This is the first of two matchups between the Cardinals and the Seahawks. In Seattle, Seahawks getting 2 at home. 47.5 is the total. My model has it as Seattle is a 1-point dog, 1.18. And 43.14 is the total. So it loves the under. And once again, if Kyler Murray does not play, I also love the under.
Right.
Seattle prefers to run the ball. The Cardinals, unfortunately, would be running the ball more than they would like.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel. We'll have to see how it goes. And if Kyler Murray is not 100% and he plays, he might not be able to run as much as well.
Right.
Cowboys at Chiefs, minus 2.5. It's at Arrowhead. 56.5 is the total. I have the Chiefs as 3.5 point favorites and 54.78. My model, when it gets to the spreads that are on the far end of the scale, the high ones and the really low ones, I find I have less trust in the model. So, my model always says when it gets up to like 57 or whatever to bet the under, and then they score 80 points. So I don't trust it as much, but I do feel like if the total on this game did go up to like 58 or 59, I would consider taking the under. But I don't really have an opinion on the game. They're just going to score a lot of points and not play defense. Steelers at Chargers on Sunday night, minus 5.5, 47. Minus 3.1 I have as this spread in this game, and 46. So my model likes the under, it leans to the under, but it likes the Steelers plus the points. You've got the Chargers that are a team, basically every Chargers game, they take a total of 50, and they move it a couple of points depending on their opponent. It's either like, if they're playing the Chiefs, it moves up to like 53. If they're playing the Steelers that has good defense, they move it down to like 47. You've got a good quarterback and a good coach that does what we call optimal game theory decisions. He uses analytics to make decisions upon when to go for it. A couple weeks ago he went for it on his own 30-yard line.
Yeah.
It didn't work out, but he follows the analytics rules. And that usually means more points, but in this case, I think the Steelers, again, are a team that's going to want to shorten the game. They will want to hold on to the ball a lot. I don't know if that will be the case. If Mason Rudolph plays again, it might not make a difference. We'll have to see. And then Monday night, we have the Giants at Tampa Bay Brady's. Minus 10.5, 49.5. My model says minus 10.17, 48.34. It is pretty much right on. There's not really a lot of value in that game. Depending on where the total goes between now and Monday, you might get a bet on it. But the Giants can surprise from time to time, but they don't play consistent enough for me to want to put any money on them.
Right.
So, any of those games you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'll take just quick points on a couple of them, actually. Obviously the Cardinals and Seahawks, you talk about the Kyler Murray aspect of it. Sure, Russell Wilson is back for the Seahawks, and I think last week, albeit maybe a little bit different given some outside variables, but I don't think Russell Wilson's 100% yet. I don't think it's very close to being 100% with that finger injury on his throwing hand, which throws a bit of a wrench in that game as well. Obviously, with the Steelers, I know Ben's status is very much so still in question for that game on Sunday. Whether or not you really are in love with that game in my opinion, for any reason. Certainly something to consider. And then
that's known as the get even game.
Yeah.
After you lose all your bets on Sunday morning.
Yeah. And then you bring up an interesting point about Tampa Bay and the Giants game. Tampa Bay on the year 3-6 against the spread so far. Obviously, last week, I think they're going to come out really guns blazing, or wanting to be guns blazing anyway.
I believe, isn't Tampa Bay coming off a bye?
No.
Oh, okay.
They lost to my beloved Fighting Washington football team.
Oh, okay, that's right. I didn't realize that was last week.
Yeah.
The weeks are blending together.
Yeah, and I don't blame you because just the way, at least from the fan perspective, losing Chase Young for the year and everything just left an awful taste in my mouth overall from that game, even though it was a win. But yeah, the Giants. They should be relatively back to full-ish strength, I think, the way it seems.
But they're
for the most
sideline.
Yeah.
The Tampa Bay secondary is
a
little banged up.
Yeah.
Which is good for the passing game,
Yeah.
but I question the Giants' coordinator's ability to get the job done.
Yeah, that being said, with that game, I'm with you. I don't know if I really would want to put anything on the game, in general. But in my opinion, if you had to, I think, you might just have to say screw it and just go with the Fighting Tom Brady's of Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Yes. So he is going to be, usually after a poor performance, he's usually pretty revved up.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you could tell this on the sidelines. If you were watching that game, even on Sunday, he had that classic meme Tom Brady look on his face of just, I'm going to have to go out here and light a few up on them next week.
That's right. So he wants to show everybody that he's still there. All right. So before I unveil my picks, do you want to give us one? Or multiple if you have something?
Yeah, I do. I kind of have a couple. I think in the NFL, I do like the Bengals on the road against the Raiders.
Okay.
I just think, the amount of stuff still kind of going on with the Raiders. The Raiders' run game has been really weird lately.
Yeah, they're very injured at running back.
Yeah. That being said, Bengals coming off of the bye week, they win the AFC North somehow through the bye week, which is baffling. But I do like the Bengals there. I don't know how much I love it, but I do actually like the New Orleans Philly game over 43.
Oh yeah. My model likes it. I think it targeted at about 44.5.
Yeah, Trevor Siemian actually has not been playing all that bad.
No,
all things considered.
And Taysom Hill is back, although he didn't look too fabulous.
Yeah. And then the Eagles' offense is actually sneakily pretty decent.
Yeah, they're usually good for 20 points a game.
Jalen Hurts, at least from the fantasy side of things, is like the second best point getter right now in the ESPN formats. And I wouldn't know that if I didn't have him on my team. But I do like that game over as well. And then, if you're looking, I guess, on the Saturday perspective for college, I do like Wake getting 4. I
actually think it's up to 4.5.
Yeah, I did see this morning it was at 4.5, so I do like that as well.
Okay. All right, so I am going to unravel my picks here, and let's see what we got up on the screen. Here we go. Oh, there we go. I didn't put my picks, but I have the wrong title. But here are the picks. I'm going to take the Oregon Ducks on the money line at plus 140. I actually I have some futures in college football that I would benefit from if they lost. So it's kind of a hedge, I guess, in a way. I have the Packers on the money line, minus 110. They are one of the best teams in the league. They do occasionally stumble against the Vikings, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think, you talked about the Seahawks playing the Packers last week, and I think the Green Bay defense is very underrated by most people. Mm-hmm. And
they just aren't
Aaron Jones is going to be out for a game or two, but A.J. Dillon has played really well, and I don't really see that being a problem. And then I'm going to take your favorite football team and the Panthers under 43. Mm-hmm. As I said, I don't think they can score points on the road. And if Cam is playing, there's going to be more running than passing, even though CMC is back.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the under 43. So just 3 plays this week. We'll see if we can't book another winning week. And that's going to do it for today's program. Thanks again for Paul for joining us. And we won't be here next week for Thanksgiving. So in 2 weeks, I'll have another episode, and we'll get ready for mobile betting in New York. We'll talk more about that. So I'll play the outro music for everybody, and let's go get some winners, folks. Take care, everybody.